I developed this model and began to work with clinical clients and then later business clients. And then I would give lectures about it. And one day I realized that Dorothy's three companions represent the three movements, or what I call the three dimensions. Mm-hmm. If you remember, the lion wanted to be king of the forest, and that's the moving against. I changed Bion's word of hate to power. I think power captures it better, and people hate the word hate.
Yes, so true.
But the lion wanted to have his own kingdom, and that's, we all need our own kingdom, our own agency, if you may. And then, of course, lion wanted a heart. That was an easy one in terms of moving toward or love. And scarecrow wanted a brain. He wanted knowing. He wanted mindfulness. And what fascinated me was that here in this apparent children's story, and I have since then believe it's not. I believe it's a mythology, and many literary scholars agree with me. I think I agree with them. Okay. But anyway, that's beside the point. That Dorothy's job, part of her job in this hero's journey, because it's a very, very typical form of what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, where her job was to take those three parts of herself that were underdeveloped and develop them and concurrently bring them together as a team, a synergy between those three parts. And I believe that was her job as a girl becoming a woman. And if you notice, each movement can be positive or negative. And when we find Dorothy's three companions, they're all in their negative mode in the very beginning. If you remember the lion, how nasty he was and a bully, right? And Tin Man was frozen in the forest, etc. And by the end of the story, she brought those three parts of herself together in a very positive and synergistic way. And that was when she was able to do the mission that she was called to do, which I believe was to give up a wizard and melt a witch. That was her job in her journey, along with integrating those three parts of herself. But I'm talking too much. But that's where the Wizard of Oz piece came. When I gave this one particular talk, usually when I give a talk, a few people will come up and they want to chat. And that day when I mentioned the Wizard of Oz, there was a line. And all they wanted to talk about was the Wizard of Oz. It hit a rhythm, or it hit a nerve for people. And so after a gentleman there from USC said, you should write an article. And as I thought about it more, I said, well, what else about the Wizard of Oz? And I came up with 5 principles of how we change, and that's the metaphor of how we change. So that's where this came from.
Oh, it's great to hear about that, Sam. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And the mythology really is around telling the story of coming of age, I guess, developing ourselves as fully functioning people. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. And getting to the next level, whatever that is for any person at any time in their life. The first principle, for example, is you don't change in Kansas, you change in Oz. There's the old psychoanalytic idea that you can't change unless something becomes ego dystonic, which means that we're uncomfortable. And we know that as therapists, because most people come to see us are are struggling with something. They're uncomfortable, and that's how adults grow. So when we have that discomfort and we don't use things we typically use, like eating too much, or drinking too much, or working too much, or tuning out, but we really go on the journey, that's how we change. So, so it is a story, I think, of transformation.